Today, we are diving into an absolutely wild story about a 48-hour fire sale that pitted nations against each other and shifted billions of dollars in global trade. It's a fascinating tale of economic desperation, sharp strategy, and some really big unintended consequences.
It was all over in just 48 hours. It kicked off with a quiet announcement in Argentina, but it ended up rattling markets all the way from Chicago to Beijing. So how on earth did a single temporary tax break manage to shake the entire global economy in just 2 days?
All right, so to really get what happened, we need to understand the backstory. This wasn't some random move by Argentina. Nope, this was a calculated play, and it was born out of some serious economic pressure.
You see, Argentina's economy was really struggling. Their currency, the peso, was tanking, and they were in desperate need of US dollars to get things stable again. Their big idea? Let's open the floodgates on our biggest exports, farm goods, by getting rid of the export taxes. But, and this is a big but, there was a catch.
$7 billion. That was the magic number. This wasn't a tax break that was going to last for a week or a month. It would end the very second that export sales hit that $7 billion mark. The race was officially on.
And the speed here was just insane. The tax was suspended on a Monday. By Wednesday, just 2 days later, they had already hit the $7 billion goal. And just like that, on Thursday, the tax was back. The window of opportunity had slammed shut. So who was quick enough to jump on this crazy opportunity?
Well, the single biggest player to seize this moment was China. And believe me, their timing wasn't a coincidence at all. It was a strategic masterstroke.
You have to remember what was going on in the world at this time. China and the United States were deep in a pretty nasty trade war. China had slapped retaliatory tariffs on a bunch of U.S. goods, including soybeans, which made them way more expensive. And since China is the world's biggest buyer of soybeans, they needed a new supplier, and they needed one fast. Argentina's fire sale? It was the perfect opening.
And boy, they did not waste any time. In that tiny 48-hour window, China reportedly scooped up around 40 massive shiploads of Argentine soybeans. That's a staggering 2.6 million metric tons. Think about that. Every single one of those ships represented a sale that probably would have gone to an American farmer.
And you can bet this did not go unnoticed back in the United States. Farmers were basically watching their biggest customer buy from a major competitor, and it sparked this powerful feeling of betrayal.
But here's where the story gets really wild. At the exact same time that U.S. farmers were losing all these sales, the U.S. government announced it was giving a financial aid package to help, you guessed it, Argentina. And it wasn't a small amount. We're talking $20 billion.
So this aid was something called a currency swap line. Basically, the U.S. agreed to lend Argentina dollars to help stabilize its economy, and in return, they got pesos. The irony is just incredible. While Argentina was taking away U.S. soybean sales, the U.S. government was literally taking on the risk of Argentina's unstable currency to help them out.
You can just imagine the reaction. The American Soybean Association put out this statement, and it just perfectly captures the disbelief. I mean, farmers aren't seeing any progress with China, but then they pick up the paper and see their own government is propping up the very country that's undercutting them.
So let's just look at the scoreboard here. For Argentina, this was a huge win. In just 48 hours, they hit their revenue goal and grabbed a massive slice of the global soybean market. For the United States, on the other hand, lost sales and skyrocketing frustration on the farm.
But this wasn't just a story about soybeans. Think of it like a rock thrown into a pond. The ripples spread out and affected the entire agricultural market.
So once Argentina slammed the door shut and put the tax back on, what happened? Well, the global supply suddenly got a lot tighter. And as a result, prices for soybeans, corn, and wheat all shot up. Now, cattle is a different story, with prices dropping for other reasons, but it just goes to show how one big event can send tremors through all of these interconnected markets.
So what's the big takeaway from this 48-hour frenzy? What does it tell us about the new front lines of global trade?
What this whole whirlwind really shows us is just how fragile our global supply chains have become. In an age of trade wars and tariffs, a single policy change in one country, fueled by tensions between two others, can redirect billions of dollars of trade in the blink of an eye. It's kind of scary.
And that leaves us with a huge question for the future. We've just seen how quickly agricultural trade can be turned into a weapon or a bargaining chip.
So as these global disputes continue, are we entering a new era where food itself becomes a central battleground for power?